Howdy, howdy, howdy. From Texas, where we're frozen. In fact, I haven't checked the weather today. We have been running our water for 3 days. I'm trying not to have the pipes freeze. Let's see, what is it right now? Feels like 30. Still can't turn off the water. Our water bill is going to be ridiculous. But first world problems, you know. I'm going to give it a few minutes for people to pop in, get notifications, that kind of thing. This may be one thing people watch on replay. So, which is fine. I'm not going to try to take too much time. Just something short and sweet. Because of the weather. Hey, Aaron. Because of the weather, I haven't been able to protest this week at all. So I made other arrangements to do other things this week. So that's kind of why I'm doing all these extra shows. Hey, Scooter Mom. Oh. Let me check that. Thank you. Audio. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Somebody tell me, can you hear me? No. Doesn't make any sense. I'll bet my earbuds are still connected. Let me check. Let me see. No, they're not connected. Okay, it's not that. This is weird. Testing. It says it's working. Testing. Oh, you can hear me? Can you still hear me? Okay. All right. I've switched it 3 times. Can you still hear me? I'll move it back to where I was. It's good, Mom. Can you hear me now, though? Because I'm on a different. Does it still sound okay? Because I have 3 things to choose from. I don't know what they are. It's like I have microphone array, communications microphone array, and default digital microphone. So, all right, good. So anyway, it's okay. Hey, Sarmento. Hey, Eric. Thank you. All right, thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. All right, I always try to give it 5 minutes before I start. That way, if you're watching on a replay, you can just fast forward 5 minutes. So, hey, Buttercup, how are you? Yeah. You should go look at the beginning of my chat. I was being facetious. I don't think anybody noticed what I did there. I was bored. I was sitting here waiting. Oh, I got to do an intro because I sit here and watch this clock for the last minute, and I'm like okay, you saw it. Yeah, I was being silly. Because then I was on my YouTube and the notification came up, and I was like, oh, okay. I gave myself a like. Yeah, you see, I'm a member of my channel. I gave myself a membership. Yeah. So I'll start a little bit. So when I had this problem with this toxic person, it was the 90s. No internet. So around when I got sick in 2010 to 2011, all I had was my 17-year-old daughter. My husband was in Iraq for literally the day I went in the emergency room, he was getting on a plane to Iraq. Well, she decided to take advantage of me being sick and dad being gone and brother being in the Navy. So by the time she turned 18 in January, I got sick in August, she was acting a fool. So by May, we had to tell her to move out. So she started acting like this toxic friend I had and my sister who acted the same. And I was worried. So I started researching it. Well, back then, when I put in the symptoms I was looking at, they gave me borderline personality disorder with narcissistic tendencies. Well, that was in 2010 with the internet we had then. Well, I started researching it again yesterday and today, and I got a whole completely different thing, which makes more sense. Because the biggest thing the two people I dealt with had was no empathy, no feeling of guilt, looking for using people as a target, finding a new target before they leave the current target. And the borderline personality disorder didn't exactly have that. What I did find in my new research, and the reason, people are like, you shouldn't diagnose people, blah, blah. Well, my sister was the second person I had to deal with, and I had stopped speaking to her. So, and then, like I said, my daughter started acting that. Now, she was more of the borderline personality disorder. She wasn't quite that bad. And back then, it said with a borderline personality disorder, that's not a mental illness you can give meds for. It takes either a life-changing event or very intense therapy. Well, my daughter, literally right after we kicked her out, got pregnant. And so, honestly, the way she treated me, it was so bad. Had she not had kids, I don't know that that relationship would have ever been repaired. But for my grandkids, I did. Now she's doing pretty good. She's a great mom. She has her issues, but she got a lot of those issues from me that I got from my mom. You know how that stuff, generational trauma works. But she's worked 2 jobs many, many times. The kids always have what they need. She's not, I had the toxic friend I talked about. She didn't take care of her kid. That kid would run out of diapers, but she had manicured nails. So yeah. So, and my sister was the same. Well, I never saw her with her kids, but so let me go into the story of the toxic friend I have. And I won't be surprised if y'all have had something similar. And as soon as I start talking, I get dry mouth. This stuff is amazing. Oh, it's mirrored. Are you seeing that mirrored? It's not supposed to be mirrored. Anyway. Okay. 1996. I lived in a trailer park here in Texas. Texas, trailer parks everywhere. And back then, in 93, when we got here, so many soldiers got moved here because our base was closed. We left, my neighborhood was all boarded up at the base I was at in California. So we had 6,000 soldiers get here in 4 or 5 months. It was August. They literally had families living in tents. They had 4 people, families in 1-bedroom apartments because there was not enough housing, even off post. They were not prepared. It was horrible. The first trailer was a rat hole, and we were only in that for 4 weeks, thank God. Anyway, so when you're it's like an apartment building, but you have a yard. And so I started home daycare in 95, literally. And at first I was just babysitting. It took me a couple years before I got registered and I had more kids, but I ran it like a daycare center. I never made any money. So I literally had bulletin boards. I was at the teacher store. I had this big table that later on that held 12 kids. It was a day. I had teachers bringing me their kids. Well, anyway, that's how I met these people. Okay. And I had a strict rule that I was not going to be friends with people that I worked with or worked for. Okay. The moms. Wasn't going to do it. Yes, we chatted and stuff when they picked up the kids. So I had this one mom. I ended up having her kids for 7 years until they moved to Germany. And her daughter, I had at 3 months old, and we had the same birthday. So I had her from 3 months old to 7 years. And then this other chick lived in the trailer park. Well, she got a job at the bar down the street and needed a babysitter. And I said, okay. Well, she only lasted like 3 or 4 days. So she owed me. She couldn't pay me. So what I did is I had her walk over and sit with the kids during naps so I could run errands because I could never get out of the house. I was stuck in my house 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and half a day on Saturday. So it was kind of nice. They met. Okay. And the long-term friend just found out she was getting a divorce. And so they started hanging out. And then they pulled me into it. I really didn't want to, but I was like, I didn't have any friends, so I did. So it didn't. So what it was is the new girl. I'll say the young girl because she was like 19. She was getting a divorce. Well, she left and went back home for a couple months and came back. So I let her stay with me while she waited on the electricity to get turned on at her place. And I still didn't know there was anything wrong with her. Well, then there was other friends involved and other that they knew. So we had a friend group there for a little while. And this girl was a handful. If we went out, she had a fight. She got kicked out. It was always her, me. Always crying and complaining. And what I found out is that if anybody wants me to do stuff for them, like I'm their mom, there's a problem. She wanted me to do everything. She couldn't even book a bus ticket. I'm like, but that's what they do is sometimes they make you feel needed in a way. So my husband was gone, by the way, again for a year. He got back just about 3 months, 2-3 months after she got back. And we had hung out and partied a little bit, went to the dance club and stuff. I love to dance. My husband and I have 2 dance trophies from high school. That was 80s dancing, not what they do now. Now I kind of knew a little bit more than everybody else so in this trailer park, everybody knew everybody else. A couple of them were in the same unit. A couple of them used to be related. But when Tom got home, I stopped hanging out. I wanted to be with my husband. Hey, no face. This girl, y'all, I'm not joking, got bent out of shape when my husband got home and I stopped hanging out because I want to see my husband. He's been gone for a year. And she, to his face, said, and this is when I finally, it all clicked. This is what happens. And this is why I don't want to diagnose anybody. That's not what I'm doing, but you may see parallels. And that's why what's going on with some people, I've been sitting back and I knew the pattern. I knew what was going to happen or what I expected to happen. And she looked at my husband and said, I had her first. No, you didn't. We've been together since 16. And I'm going to make sure you guys get a divorce. Because the other 2 were single, and she wanted me to be single. I'm like, Now, that was August, September. I didn't get rid of her till almost New Year's. Because I was afraid to say to her, get out of my life, because I was afraid she was going to set fire to my house or slash my tires. Okay? She scared the bejesus out of me. So I placated her. Okay, there's another word I need, Scooter Mom. Is it placate or placate? I always say placate. It's it's a word I read a lot, but I don't use in my everyday work language. So I just, tried to get along because she scared me. And she started so I was staying away from the group a bit, but everybody talked to me. I was like the mom. Everybody would talk to me. I knew what was going on with everybody else. Yeah, that's how you spell it, but I don't say it that often. So I always, in my mind, I say placate. I hope I'm saying that right. Because I read a lot, but there's a lot of things I don't necessarily say in everyday language or hear. Placate. Okay, good. Got it. I'm good. And just things just kept unraveling. People didn't like this person. This person didn't like this person. They were fighting. This person was fighting. And it all came to a head when she played a game on me, a manipulation to appease. Yes, I was appeasing her enough so that she wouldn't lash out at me, because I knew she was unstable and she scared me and she was unpredictable. So, the older friend, they were hung up. The older friend calls me on the phone. This is now just after Christmas. My dad had just died, so I didn't have it in me to care. And she said, well, this girl took a bunch of pills and she's wondering if she should go to the ER. I'm like, well, yeah. She's like, well, she's not sure what to do with her daughter. And I'm like, well, bring her to me. She knows me. I'm, we watched each other's kids and stuff here and there too after that on the weekends. Well, then she said, well, if she does that, she's afraid the ex-husband will get custody. And I'm like, well, at this point, who's the better parent? She's the one that took pills with her kid in the house. Then she comes on the line. We're on a 3-way call. And I was just like, not caring. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. I said, bring the baby to me. You go to the ER, and I don't really care what happens after that. Well, she realized if I was done with her, everybody was going to be done with her. And literally within 24 hours, she was gone. She left the state. And so there's a pattern, is what I'm getting at. They find a target. They manipulate, and especially if it's a group, it's usually more than one person, but they manipulate with lies, little here, little there, enough that you're like, did she really mean it that way? Maybe I misheard her, It's nothing big enough to be able to latch onto to say, you lied, you did this, you did that. Hey, Becky. And so it's little bit here and there, little bit here and there. That's why when people say when they figured out somebody was like this, they feel duped and they feel stupid. Why didn't I see it? And I'm like, that's the thing. We don't. And reading, we're just starting A Piece of Blue Sky by John Atack. And we're reading the first chapter where he got into Scientology. He wasn't Sea Org or staff. He was like a public. And I'm going to highlight, because I'm doing it on Kindle, every time, and we talked about this, every time he said, well, I let it go because I thought maybe they meant this, or it seemed weird, but I just went with it. And I'm going to highlight every time he says that, because that's how these people work. They don't come at you to your front. They come at you every other way, and you don't see it all at once until it's over. So that's kind of okay, Becky. That's cool. That's okay. I'm talking. You don't have to chat that much right now. Just telling my story. But what was funny, so right before that happened, my sister got here, who was the same age. She had graduated the previous summer, and I didn't know her. She was 8 years old when I moved out. Okay. And she showed up. She was supposed to be here for 10 days. She lived with me for 10 months until I kicked her out. And they literally had just met at a welcome party for my sister. And I'm in the kitchen and I hear screaming. I never had violence or screaming at my parties. We were all happy people, And so I heard screaming. Them two were in each other's face screaming. I don't even remember why. Years later, when I started really looking at it and thinking about it, I was like, it was like two alpha dogs fighting for control, like recognizing each other. And like, it's like they recognized each other and there could only be one, like that movie. And that's what I think it was. I really do. That they knew each other, right? I don't know how, but they did. So after dealing with her, I could see right away what my sister was doing. And I tried to deal with it as long as I could. But she was the same way in the same group of people doing the same. Highlander, yes. There can only be one. And she was the exact same way. When she left, fighting to be top dog. And I'm gonna not diagnosing, but I'm gonna point out similarities. And it's one of the reasons I'm bringing this up. I said I wasn't gonna diagnose anybody, and I'm not, but I see parallels to what's going on in LA. So somebody comes in, they get into a group and start manipulating people and says, this is what this girl did to us. She told this person that this person was mad at them. And then she told that person was mad at them. Hence, hey, Hetzo. Okay, cool. Oh, wow. Working a ton. Dang. Yes. And that's one of the reasons, I've been seeing this for a while. But like the other night, I didn't feel like I would be heard. I mean, I didn't feel that it was my place. I wasn't there. I didn't know all the details. I didn't know enough to even say anything. And I also knew if they didn't see it for themselves, they wouldn't listen. If somebody, well, I probably would have, because I wasn't that enamored or involved with this girl. I knew pretty right away. I just could not get her out of my life. But when I talked to the other people, they wouldn't listen to me. So I only broached it a little bit because I didn't want to make enemies of everybody. Because my business was intertwined in it. 2 of them were my moms that I paid me. So, when they left, both times, when we all got together and started comparing notes and talking to each other, that's when we found out all the lies and the manipulations and the BS. And it's kind of what's happening right now. It has to get to the point where people get fed up, they're done, and they're not going to pussyfoot around anymore. And now everybody's talking, and we're getting details that not everybody knew about. So, and usually the next thing that happens is it takes a while for everybody to get on board with, not everybody will. If there are people involved that person didn't like directly attack or manipulate yet, or hasn't, gotten that far, or they haven't gotten the details, they're going to still believe that person. And it's hard to fault them for that when they're believing someone. That's why when people, hey, MSD, that's why when people would come into my chat and tell me so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that I don't know that for sure. I don't, unless I can verify that stuff for myself. So that's, what we've been talking about lately. And that's why it's been really difficult for people way out here like me that aren't involved. A lot of us, are in the States. There's just a couple of us protesting. And all we know is either what we see ourselves, which is not going to happen much because there are literally hundreds, probably thousands of hours of video where people have said things or done things on camera that I'll never see. I don't have that kind of time. So I've decided to trust somebody that's there, that's dealing with it, Anyway, I digress. Let me go back to the finish of my story so we can move on. Oh, Iceland water is my favorite water, but I can't get it very often. So there's a pattern. And what I read about the first time, and then I'll go into my notes this time, what I researched, was they obviously manipulate and control. They think, and what helps us, the only one thing that helps us is those kind of people in their mind. They have this, and I talked to my mom about my sister. And I said, my mom called her a habitual liar. Somebody gave me pathological liar. Hey, Susan. And my mom was literally on her deathbed, and we were talking about her. And I said, I don't understand how somebody can out and out make stuff up and lose their crap over it and use it and tell people that. And she said, my mom said this. She said, people like that believe what they're saying. That they have created this fantasy world in their mind where the things that they're doing and saying make sense. And they don't think they're doing anything wrong because they have no empathy or caring of others' feelings. And it made a lot of sense to me. And this was after I dealt with both of them. And when I looked it up, right. Now, the one thing you want out of that, though, the reason I haven't forgiven, well, I didn't forgive her, but I'm not angry at my sister. I'm disappointed. I was angry at first. What started it all is when we found out our mom was dying, she was still here. And when I told her, she said, I don't give an F. Now, my mom was a horrible mom. I have trauma and all of that. But my mom's dying. You know? You just don't say that. You don't say that about a stranger. And I tried to have a fist fight with her. That's the only time I've ever been in a fist fight. But my sister's 6 foot tall, and I'm 5'2". We have different dads. So I don't think I connected anywhere. But anyway, that and how she treated my mom when she moved back. So my mom was fighting it. It was stage 4. But my mom was fighting it. She was keeping calm, doing her chemo. My sister went up there and drove her insane. And I know she put her in the grave way faster than she should have. And that was one of the biggest. And when I closed my business and drove up there, I walk in to her standing over my dying mother who's in pain because she can't remember what meds to take when, and my sister wasn't helping, screaming at her to sign her tax return check so she could go cash it so she could send her lawyer down here $400 for the second time she got arrested down here. I've never been arrested in my life. When she was living with me, she went to jail for 37 days because me and my mom would not bail her out. She tried to rob the place that she worked at after she was still working there with 2 other people. Anyway, what was I was getting at the pattern. So from what I've experienced, they will have a new target before they move from the old. So they're already, when things start to go wrong and they kind of see the end is near, they're going to try to find a new target. And that was in my research that I looked up too. That was something that they do. They only see people as a target, as a means to an end. As we used to call them users, because we didn't know the correct term for these people. Now, yes, Becky, that's what I wanted to get at. Thanks, Susan. My sister knew how to cry and say she was sorry. After about the 3rd time, I was like, what are you sorry for? And she couldn't tell me. So when I told her we weren't going to speak anymore, I told her, I said, when you can tell me why you're sorry, then we'll talk. And she couldn't do it. That was a lot like my mom, though. When I tried to bring up the stuff she did to me, I never did that. You can't get an apology for somebody that doesn't think they did anything wrong. Yeah. I know they say, and I was in church, heavily in church while she was still here. And we had a day where forgiveness was the topic. And I went to my bishop at the time to talk to him. I think. Was it him? I think so. I got an appointment because I was having a conundrum about it. And I said, look here, I keep forgiving her and she keeps doing the same thing. And he said, well, he goes, forgiveness is important, but you don't have to let her keep abusing you. That was the best advice I'd ever gotten. And I got that from church. You know, you hear turn the other cheek. But in real life, that's just detrimental to you. And it wasn't just me. It was my husband and my kids. She was hurting my kids who loved their aunt. And she wouldn't keep her part of her promises. Shenanigan. Hey, Eric. How are you? Hey, Irish Mart. It was great advice. I know. But yeah, it was really great advice. And when I saw her hurting my kids, I promised them to do stuff with them, and then she just wouldn't do it. She just didn't care. And they were young then. So I knew I was done, and it was for my mental health. Funny side story. So about a year, so this was 99, so 96, 97 was the first chick. So 99 was when my mom passed away. So about a year later, maybe two. No, it was years later. That was a phone call. She tried to call because she was having a baby, and she doesn't have any family that wanted anything to do with her. And neither did I. My husband handed me the phone, which made me mad because he knew I didn't want to talk to her. He was trying to get us to make up. And I got on the phone. I said, I don't want to talk to you. And I hung up. Yes. Not only that, but control. There's a lot of manipulation and control too. I'll read it. It says, they exploit and switch targets. I can't read my own writing. Easily once they have achieved their goal. Oh, let me read the whole thing. Target selection. Okay. They can identify vulnerable people to exploit and switch targets easily once they have achieved their goal. So I'll get into that some more. So I saw that with my sister. She had used everybody up back home, her dad and mom. So she came down here to use me. Then she literally married a guy she met at on the weekend, 2 weekends at a party in the trailer. She moved to another trailer in the trailer park. But he didn't live there. They got married within. That's the thing about the Army. They get married quick at the Justice Peace, like a month in. And let's see, that was November. By February, they were getting a divorce. Go figure. Because she used him up too. She got him to marry her because she needed health insurance. So anyway, I've seen a lot of that in the Army. What was I getting at? Oh, Facebook. My husband's family is huge. I mean, huge. When they do, they've since a lot of them have passed on, but back then was huge and all over. So if somebody with that last name gave me a friend request on Facebook, I said yes, because I knew it was probably a distant relative that I probably didn't know or remember. And it was her. she had married somebody with the same last name as my husband. I don't know if that was calculated or not. Not sure. So I friended her, and she's like, "Oh, it's so great to see you, blah, 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 blah." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know it was you. Sorry." And clicked off. And her last message was bitching at me because I told her I was done. That's how fast they switch. As soon as she knew she wasn't going to get what she wanted, she lost her shit on me. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And more money. You get these, what it is you get these soldiers in the barracks, right? They're in E3. They're making, I don't know what they make now, but last time I checked, they were making about $1,400 a month. Yeah, they get fed and they have a roof, but sometimes they have a roommate they hate. Or they're playing loud music on the weekends and stuff, and they don't want to live in the barracks anymore. But if you're not married, you can't move out of the barracks until you're an NCO. So they'll find, and secondly, the woman to male ratio in a military town, especially here, is like 10-1. So trying to date or find somebody is hard for these guys. So when they find one, they try to lock them down as quick as they can. Or they do what I call shipping them in, which is what my husband did. They have a girl back home that they start talking to again, or they're dating, and they'll bring them in and they'll get married or bring them in and live together. So they'll do that. Because my husband was living in the barracks, and he called me up and says, "I'm getting leave in 3 weeks. We're getting married." I'm like, "Okay." Well, we had a wedding. We did not do justice peace. So anyway, I went off topic. We were talking about targets and stuff. So when they know they're not going to get anything more from that target, then they move on to something else. No, I didn't know that. So am I, but from the reserves. What were you in, Minnie? Oh, it's calculated. It's totally calculated. Yeah, well, if it's, like I said, there's so many family members that at that time, it was fairly new, and I was getting new friend requests all the time. And if they had his last name, it was, that was the only time that it wasn't the person I thought it was, because I didn't even know she was married. Yeah. Yeah. People get married real quick in the military because they're lonely, they get paid more. So, well, this happened to my daughter. I'll tell you about that later. Honestly, this guy probably was the same personality, what he did to my daughter. He literally got her to marry him so he could buy a new truck. I'll go into that another time. Oh, we'll talk later. My husband was in the Army for 21 years during that time. Were you ever at Fort Hood? Thanks. Yeah, I was this close to going to Desert Storm. They would have had to recall me. I had just gotten out, but I was still in active reserves. Thank God they didn't call me. I could not do sand like that. I couldn't. So anyway, the pattern. And I'm seeing this, and my hope is soon, but the problem is there are still people in that person's like target area, I guess. Yeah. I enlisted in 86 before they had to be nice to you in basic training. So anyway, I don't want to get too far off. All right, so that's the story. I'm just going to go into the clinical stuff that I found out. It's not a lot. So at first, but way back in 2010, when I put in, the internet is not what it is now. Back then, I got borderline personality disorder with narcissistic tendencies. Well, borderline personality disorder does not count for the targeting and the lack of empathy as much. BPD, borderline personality with narcissistic personality disorder, both can involve intense emotional fluctuations, unstable relationships, strong need for validation. Antisocial personality disorder, though sometimes referred to as sociopathy and or psychopathy, is lack of empathy, struggle to understand or share feelings of others, callous to the pain they cause, exploitive behavior, manipulate others for personal gain, discarding relationships once they're not useful. So, hi Doug, how are you? This And then I went into target selection, which I already said. They can identify vulnerable people to exploit and switch targets easily once they have achieved their goal. No remorse. Show no guilt or remorse even when they harm others. Empathy deficient disorder, which is also could be in there, is there's actually a test for it called the empathy quotient EQ test. Symptoms of antisocial personality disorder. I started to write, but I think I have it up here. Let me look. Let me put this on the screen. So I wanted to know the difference between psychopath and sociopath because there is a difference. This article didn't really help me, but it was still interesting. I'm in VA housing. Oh, awesome. Here online, they have some amazing housing programs. That's really cool. Really cool. Okay, let me present, share screen. All right. I can't see the chat when I'm doing this. I haven't figured out how to do it yet. So, look. Is that as small as I can get? There we go. All right. What's the difference between psychopath and sociopath, and how do both differ from narcissists? Oop. I'm scrolling. They're often interchangeable, which I thought there was a definite difference. It's interchangeably in common speech to describe a person who is pathologically prone to criminal or violent behavior and who lacks any regard for the feelings or interests of others and any feelings of remorse or guilt for his crimes. Although the terms are also used in the scientific literature DSM, they are not well defined there. Mental health professionals instead prefer to understand both psychopathy and sociopathy as types of antisocial personality disorders, each condition being distinguished by a few characteristic features, but both having many features in common. Right? Both are characterized by an abiding pattern of disregard for and violation of the rights of others, as manifested through three or more of the following habitual or continual behaviors. 1. Serious violations of criminal laws. 2. Deceitfulness for personal gain or pleasure, including lying, swindling, or trickery. 3. Impulsiveness or failure to plan ahead. Now, that's the only thing, I'm going to talk about that a little more, that is helpful in the fact that they don't think ahead about what they're doing now. So it eventually comes around and bites them in the butt. 4. Irritability and aggressiveness, often resulting in physical assaults. 5. Reckless disregard for safety of oneself or others. 6. Failure to meet important adult responsibilities, including job and family-related duties and financial obligations. 7. Lack of meaningful remorse or guilt to the point of complete indifference regarding the serious harm or distress when actions cause other people. Other characteristics are pronounced lack of empathy for APD, a lack of empathy, a tendency to be contemptuous of the rights, interests, or feelings of others, and excessively high self-appraisal, arrogance, conceitfulness, or cockiness. Let's see, do I need to read more? Oh, it's hard to diagnose in children, but there are things that they can look at, because I can definitely tell you my sister had symptoms as a child. Okay, I'm going to read this too. Among persons who display APD, those called psychopaths are distinguished by a nearly complete inability to form genuine emotional attachments to others, a compensating tendency to form artificial and shallow relationships, which the psychopath cynically exploits or manipulates to benefit himself, a corresponding ability to appear glib and even charming to others, an ability in some psychopaths to maintain the appearance of a normal work and family life, and a tendency to carefully plan criminal activities to avoid detection. Sociopaths, in contrast, are generally capable of developing a close attachment to one or a few individuals or groups, though they too generally have severe difficulties in forming relationships. Sociopaths are also usually incapable of anything even remotely resembling a normal work or family life, and in comparison to psychopaths, they're exceptionally impulsive and erratic, and more prone to rage or violent outbursts. Accordingly, their criminal activities tend to be spur of the moment rather than carefully premeditated. Psychopaths are born, sociopaths are made. I might look at that a little bit more. So, let me go back. Psychopaths have a genetic component, whereas sociopaths do not have a genetic component. I majored in psychology, but I am not practicing therapist. Thank you, Buttercup. Give me any thoughts you might have. I actually wanted to go into psychology. I really did. Then I wanted to be a teacher. Yeah. And I can never remember. Now, this is going to help me. Yep. That's bad. Oh, my husband, that's one of his hobbies. He likes messing with the cast iron. Yeah, that is awful, Becky. That's good. Did I get everything? Okay, I think I did. All right. So, anyway, I just wanted to, maybe I could help with my story, recognize if you guys are involved in doing something like that. It helped me to learn the newer stuff than what I'd learned way back in 2010, 2011. This actually explained it much more. So anyway, my point was, for me personally, at that time, I stopped having friends. I was in my 20s. I was about 27 when she left. And no more friends. We were in church at the time. We started getting really heavily involved because we're in youth group, and stuff like that. So that was my social stuff. And I was like, my husband's my best friend. We've known each other. I met him when I was 15. And I didn't see the need for a long, long time. Now, my last job, I did go, there were two other women there that like crafts, and we went, there's a town on the way to Austin that used to have more craft stores than it does now, and galleries and stuff. And my daughter was so shocked that I was going shopping with them. She was like, my mom has friends. But when I got sick and left work, not one person called me to ask me how I was. I got informed that I was terminated due to medical reasons. Even though I had written them, filled out my form, and said I had planned on coming, although I never could go back to work. I had planned on going back to work, but I couldn't. So anyway, and church did something similar. So that really put me off. This community, even with all its faults and even with some of the stress, and even though I don't get to meet all of you in person, it helped me open back up to, I wasn't sure about the protesting thing. I didn't know where that was going to go. At first, I didn't even want to be on camera. The week I told Pearl Snappy I'd just film her. I'd hold her camera. I didn't know she had a tripod when I got there. And so that's what I did for a few days. And then I got enough subscribers to go live. And it's just been really amazing. We're talking about, the disappointing parts. I hate to see such a great movement and such a group of great people have to deal with toxicity. Hey, Marco. Thank you. So it's been kind of surreal. So I've sat down quite a few times. If you guys watch me on the regular, I've talked about it. I'm like sitting here right now. I look at what my life was before this, and it was non-existent, really. And when I'm not on here, it's pretty non-existent. And so that's why I know I talk a lot, but I don't have anybody else to talk to. I don't sit on the phone with anybody. I don't see anybody else. Tom's asleep all day. I talk to him more at night on Facebook Messenger than I do when he's at the house. That's why I'm up late a lot of times. That's good. That's good, Minnie. It's good. Good to hear it. Cool. I don't remember. He did so much stuff. I don't even remember. That was his thing, and he likes to make knives too. He can't forge them because we live in a neighborhood, but he'll cut them out. He's making one out of a saw blade right now, so he likes doing that kind of stuff. Because I didn't want to use the nonstick pots anymore for health reasons. I got rid of anything that might be toxic, so we only use stainless steel and cast iron or ceramic now. Anyway, off topic. So, even though we've got a few that, for whatever reason, aren't happy in the community, I think I still have hope. This is why when people say we should rename SPTV because it's been drug in the mud or whatever, I'm like, I'm sorry, it's near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to fight tooth and nail for as long as I can. Now, if there's a bigger consensus, then maybe we will. But I was there the day I watched somebody in the chat create it, and I watched it blow up and people coalesce around that name. And I'm not going to let a few people drag it down. And so when Eric the other day said, we're done pussyfooting around this issue, we're going to get back to the protesting we used to do, the way we used to do it, and we're not going to let this crap interfere anymore. And I was like, yes! If you guys would have seen it, I was like, yes! Yes, yes, yes! So I didn't want to get into that much here because I did that the other night if y'all want to go watch that. And if you haven't seen Eric Rader's live stream, what is today? Friday? Wednesday. Go watch it. He was heated and upset, but what it was is, it was somebody finally taking a stand. And whether he's right or wrong, like I said, I'm not there, so I'm just choosing to believe him. I like him. I feel he's credible. And so, because I don't know all the details, a lot of stuff he brought up that day, I had no idea. I'm always getting shocked. I kind of agree, but nothing we can do about it now. No big deal to me. Here's my thing about that in the aftermath. If you think they're doing something shady, all you have to do is call the IRS and they will do an audit because they have to turn in financials, what money they take in, what money they spend, and how they spell it. Thank you, Scooter Mom. And how they spend it. And that's what I have to say about that. I don't know. I'm not there. So there's nothing I can say about it. I don't know one way or the other. I still give it out I'm trying to give both out now to when I say it. That way they can both choose, because I'm told Aftermath is still trying to help. Hey Mark, how are you? So because, like I said, because I've been through this, I've been sitting back seeing this play out again. I like the SPTV name too. It's in my name too, Miss Kim SP. And see, I'm stuffy, man. When I start talking a lot, I get so stuffy. And this doesn't even really help. But even if I do it before I go on, it's weird. Anyway. Well, good. I'm glad. So I just wanted to tell my story because I've touched on it a few times. And the other day I mentioned, so some of you that just got in here, I had a toxic friend who was a sociopath, I know now, with antisocial personality disorder, sociopath or psychopath, whichever. My husband was overseas from 95 to 96, and I met her first in February of 96. She left and came back in May of 96. My husband came back in August. So June, July, August. So for 3 months, I did not want to hang out with the moms that I babysat for. I had a home daycare. But they got together and pulled me in. I was like, okay. What it was, the reason we hung out and so much those 3 months is when school let out, her teenager niece came to stay. We had a babysitter. So me and the other moms went a little nuts because we had a Saturday night baby. So we went dancing quite a lot. And my husband went too when he got home. Every time we went out, that girl would get in a fight. Every night ended with her losing her crap for stupid reasons because and they call that at the time histrionic disorder too. It goes with this stuff because she had to make a scene every time. Sudafed, yes, I should. I have Mucinex, but I need this. You're right. I need the Sudafed. I'm out. Actually, I'm not out, but sharing that we've been carrying. I know what you mean now. I have actually they just said crooked nasal canal when it's actually supposed to be called deviated septum. That's what they said to me. Yeah, and that was a big deal for me. Were you here? I can't remember. Guys, I have Swiss cheese memory with this fibromyalgia. Sometimes I forget. Were you in here with me Wednesday night with my chat? Because I told people I had a lot of, because I was in some other chats. And I said, if you want to vent, come on over. Because I usually don't do that. I've never done that before. I usually try to stay middle of the road because I feel very confused. I don't feel confident in details because I don't know a lot. So there's so much going on behind the scenes between people that I know nothing about. And the thing is, you guys, if you're in my chat and you support some of these people, I don't care. I don't, as long as you're not coming in being hateful to other channels, you can support anybody you want. I'm not going to tell anybody except DOA. DOA is the only person I don't give two F's about. He's mean. And he has no good intentions. Yes, brain fiber fog. Hey, Buttercup, Sunday I'm doing a fibromyalgia chronic pain panel with 5 other creators that have it or chronic pain at 4:00 Central. You should come. Because I actually got myself better through diet. Because I was so, when I got mine overnight, I got traumatic fibromyalgia. And I was so weak that I couldn't even hold a remote. it was a big remote for cable. I was laying there and I couldn't even hold the remote. I hired somebody out of the newspaper just to be my assistant, not like take care of me. Just this is after I kicked my daughter out. Just to come in 3 times a week, make sure I was alive and open. I couldn't even open mail. I was so weak. I lost so much weight because I couldn't even get to the kitchen. Anyway, so before Sunday, maybe today or tomorrow, I'm going to put out a short video because my story is so long and complicated. I don't want to give the whole thing during the panel because I want to give other people time to talk. It would take a lot of time, like a good 10 to 15 minutes. So, because there's a lot of things that happened that led up to that caused it. And it was a doctor messing up my meds that gave me fibro. That I'll talk about, but there's stuff that goes all the way back to a car accident in 1988. Yeah, I saw that was one of the first pictures I saw, and I was like, oh my God, that is exactly what it feels like. So anyway, yes. And I'm sorry, I will talk about him all day long now. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Because there is nothing there that is positive. Because when I see people screaming at the Scientologists, all that is doing is reinforcing what they're told about us. That we're evil, that we're liars, that everything in the outside world is evil. You have to stay here. All they're doing is reinforcing that. Now, I will say this because I never told anybody how to protest. You know, if you're going to protest, and I backed them up no matter what in the beginning. And this is why. The ones who were aggressive in the beginning, I feel it was kind of necessary at that time. It brought a lot of new, because it was real new. Now, the group in LA were actually really quiet. They just stood around on the street corner. But they already had audiences on TikTok, all right? But the new protesters were a lot of never-ends. It was after, I think, Scotty got on the scene, and they saw that, you know, it brought in a lot of attention. And I'm okay with that. I think at the beginning, we needed that attention. We needed whatever anybody wanted to do, if they wanted to wear a costume, if they wanted to be loud and aggressive, whatever at the beginning. I'm not going to down anybody for that at the time, because I think we needed it to bring awareness, bring new eyes to it, and all of that. We just realized after time, and even the swattings and stuff, I feel so bad for those that had to go to jail. I mean, holy crap, because they swatted me too, but in a different way. But we realized over time that we needed to evolve, because being aggressive and doing that kind of stuff was bringing too much attention from the police. And we don't really need, we know LAPD is crooked. It happened when it didn't need to happen, when people weren't even being aggressive. That's a different thing. But in other places, it brought the attention of police departments that weren't in the pocket of Scientology. And I don't think that's necessary. APD's been, as far as I know, pretty cool. I know Selfless and Pearl Snappy had a lot more interaction with them than I did. I only had 1 or 2, maybe. When they swatted me, they had security guards for 3 or 4 weeks after the opening. So we had a witness. So they couldn't false call on me because he knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. So what they did is they used the VoIP line, which is using a computer like a phone over the internet. And they called in shots fired to my location. And the guy ran up. I clipped it out. It's on my channel. Because I'm yelling, Nerd Report, Lewis, he put me, when he watched it, he was like, they're going after grandmas now? Because I'm like, I'm a grandma. They're not going to arrest me. Anyway, Because he ran up and he's all, freaked out. 6 cop cars show up and he's like, "Have you been filming this whole time?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Did you hear any shots fired?" I was like, "No." And you could visibly see him calm down. He's like, "This is bullshit. If she's here filming and nobody's running out of the building screaming and no, you can't hear any shots, it was obviously bogus." Yeah, I know. And that weekend, everybody got swatted. It's like they coalesced in that one weekend. That's when they called the 26 cop cars and helicopters on Jessica and LA Cam and I think Confident. I can't remember who all was there. They were at a house party. They weren't even protesting. And they called and said there were a bunch of shots fired where they were at because they were live streaming so people knew where they were at. Anyway, back to what we were supposed to talk about. Oh, good. Yeah, I'm on a lot of meds. Yeah, I never watched his channel that much. I would go to the other people because he really wasn't ever there at the beginning. He was too busy with what he was doing to really. Anyway, I would just go to the others, and they were smaller. He had a big chat because he had followers long before he got there. So I tried to go to. I've always done this. I've always tried to go to the smaller channels. If somebody's got 100 or more people on their channel, somebody over here's got 30 or less, I'm gonna go there and give them the love. Sorry, no offense. But I'll try to click into everybody. Yeah. So it was like they coordinated and swatted everybody. And the only way they could swat me was shots fired at that location because the security guard could prove I hadn't done anything wrong. The first day I came, which was the week before they opened, I was carrying because I was worried. But it was in my backpack. Then I was like, I wouldn't even be able to get to it. And then I thought about it. And I thought, before I got swatted, thank God, I was like, if they call on me about a weapon and I actually have one, I'm going to be screwed. So I stopped. Yeah, I watched all of that stuff. That was before. The swatting was like within a month of them opening, and I didn't get the homeless guy till summer, a while later. I'd have to go look. But yeah, I gotta clip those out because there was an NOI guy that started a nice conversation with me and went off and ended with, "Somebody sent you. Somebody's sending you here." And I'm like, man, I wish they'd pay for my parking. And then there was another guy that attacked me, and I was pretty sure because he'd been seen going into the Scientology and he was defending Scientology. The homeless guy, he didn't even know what he wanted to say. He was yelling at me about wanting water from me. And I never saw him before and I never saw him after. And people like that usually have neighborhoods they stay in. Oh, that's awesome, Marco. Hey, Janet, how are you? How are you? You can go back and watch the beginning when I was talking about the toxicity. And I'm actually into, so people are using the word narcissism a lot for some things. That's fine for that stuff. But the stuff we're kind of dealing with, I think, falls into the same category as my friend, which was sociopathy, psychopathy, target selection. They can identify vulnerable people to exploit and switch targets easily when they have achieved their goal. No remorse, show no guilt or remorse even when they harm others. And lack of empathy, struggle to understand or share feelings of others, callous to the pain they cause, exploitive behavior, manipulate others for personal gain, discarding relationships once they're not useful. And I also read somewhere that they already have a new target when they're done with the current target. They don't just stop and have a break. And what was the other thing? But I dealt with this in my own life, and I'm just seeing a little bit of parallel. So I'm hoping, so when she knew that the group here was done with her, with all of her BS, so within 24 hours, she was gone. My sister, too. When my sister knew I was done with her, she immediately found a soldier and moved in with him, and they got married within a month. So she found a new target. And she already had that target before she knew I was getting fed up. I was driving an hour and a half round trip to take her to work and go pick her up. She had to pick a job way out. And all of these people never could keep a job, found a way to get money from, I forgot this part, y'all. The crazy chick in my life. So she got a divorce from her husband when I first met her. She left town. When she came back, she had met somebody else before she left and was coming back to live with him. Literally within a month or two of them getting their place, he had to go on a deployment for several months. Gave her the ATM card and left town. I never saw that girl work. And then when they broke up and she had boyfriends, she would get them to pay for tattoos or pay to get her nails done. But her little girl was out of diapers, but she had her fake nails. So, and I'm not going to get into that. Well, if you want to chat for a little while, you can go back and watch the beginning later. But either way, whatever you guys want to do. I'm glad you didn't, Doug. I'm really glad. When I see people come in and they say that they're tired of it, I said, look, don't leave. There are so many creators in this group. You'll find somebody you like. And when I get young people that seem like they're interested, I'm going to make a new list. But I'm making new signs. Hey, how's you doing? Hi. I'm not surprised. I talked about my sister. I had to cut her out of my life. She was a psychopath, for real. Because that's what I just read off is the psychopath. Let's see. It was antisocial personality disorder, sometimes referred to as sociopathy or psychopathy. And that's what my sister had and that toxic friend I had. So, and they were back to back too. And that's another reason, Doug, that some of those I don't watch too, because so if you go back to my 11-minute video, I think, where I said small voices need to be heard, and it was about me trying to not take sides because I just don't know what's going on. And for my mental health, for me, I didn't want to get involved because it's stressful and I can't handle a lot of stress. I've got so much crap going on physically, and I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder in the night, literally right after those people left in 98. But the meds they tried on me back then didn't work. Yeah, AA for sure. Yeah. And see, that's the thing where they say that they break the law and they don't really care about the consequences. My sister, so when she was here, she got a job at a fast food restaurant. I started working there too as a second job after daycare. I've had a second job a lot of times because my husband was still not very high rank. And I didn't make the money. I really didn't make much money with daycare after all the expenses. But I did it because I couldn't afford to pay daycare and work minimum wage with my 2 kids. So I was able to stay home with them to do that. But it was very stressful. Daycare was very stressful. Especially when you're the only one running it all. Taking care of other people's kids is more stressful. But so she was home this night, but because she was in on it, so it was like Saturday night and somebody tried to break into the restaurant. They didn't even make it through the door. The alarm went off, and she was like 19, and one of them was 17 and one was 18. One was a prior employee, one was current. She was a shift leader. So was I. So she had the number to the safe. Well, when you think about it, this is why I don't break the law, because I know in my brain it's not worth it. And this is why. So if they would have got away with it, or if they would have got the money, we had deposited in that safe about $2,000. You split that up between 3 people and you're going to get less than $700. But you're going to lose your job. You're going to go to jail for 37 days, which she did, because we did not bail her out. We're like, no, we're not bailing you. I don't have $1,000. And then you can't use that job as a reference. Now, she got adjudicated probation, which means it doesn't show on your record. Then she thought it was funny. When she talked about being in jail, she talked about it like it was an adventure. And then I find out she had done things to coworkers back home, like key their car, and she knew exactly where the cameras were so that she could do it and not get in trouble. And she thought it was funny. I could never do that in my life. Something on purpose like that. Oh, I understand that, hon. You should come by on Sunday. We're doing that chronic pain fibro thing. I added the chronic pain because so many people told me that they have that. And that's, even though we have people that aren't here for the right reasons, for the most part, I still feel like the right chats are safe spaces. I mean, there is the chance that somebody with ill intent can take your information and bug you about it. But I choose to not care about those kind of people. Or troll. Oh, yeah. Ooh. What state are you in? Yeah. Oh, thank you. And you too. You've helped me a lot understand what it's like to deal with this cult. Oregon. Okay. Even here, it's below freezing. It's weird. This has been a weird week. Your shoulder, arm, and wrist. Ugh. See, both my shoulders need surgery. So, I know it. So I have, not only do I have the fibro, I have the pain stimulator on my back from injuring 5 discs. I need surgery on both shoulders, and I had a car accident that messed up my neck. So I have a chronic pain on top of fibromyalgia. So I understand. Yes, and that's why I'm finally speaking out, because I don't want these people that want to be hateful and attack others to get away with it anymore. Now, so my year anniversary is tomorrow night is when I'm doing the anniversary part, because even though I go on at 10, I'll be going after midnight. The 23rd is my 1-year anniversary of going live. Even though I protested a few days before that, but that was the day I went live a year ago. So I've been in a lot of contemplation the last few weeks about, now that I'm still here and still going after a year, what do I want from this? What do I care about? And what I care about is keeping this movement going, because it's going to take time. I've been doing this a year and we're not seeing a lot of headway. It's all baby steps until something blows up, till some congressperson gets involved, or some big journalist does a story or something. We can finally break this bubble out of YouTube and TikTok and get something bigger. And I'm going to talk about that more tomorrow night. Wow, Doug. Dang. My husband's like that. They told him that being in the Army for 21 years, when you get out, your body is 20 years older than your age. He got out at 41. He was fairly young, but he was broke AF. He was 70% disabled when he got out. Now he's 80, and we're about to get him 100 so he can quit working. My son has done a lot of research into it, because my husband's PTSD is horrible. Because it wasn't about him. If he'd have been the one in danger, he wouldn't have PTSD. Because we knew what to expect. I mean, we went in the Army and we were teenagers. He's had nightmares every night since 2007. So he got home in December 2007 from the second tour. What it was is because his back was bad. He was about to retire. And so they put him on gate guard. He didn't go out on missions, which was worse, because when you go out on a mission, you go out for a few hours, you come back, you can take your equipment off. He had to wear the 70 pounds of equipment for 8 hours or more a day. Or was it 12? I can't remember. And he's a small guy. He was 115 pounds when he enlisted. So anyway, the gate he was on was the gate. They were 15 miles from the Iran border, near this small Iraqi town. And if any of the Iraqi police or soldiers or civilians needed help, he was at the gate where they came for the hospital. And so if somebody was injured, it was him, a subordinate, like a private, and his interpreter. That was it. And when he would call the medics to the gate, they waited 10 to 20 minutes to make sure nothing was going to blow up. So my husband had to do life-saving measures on men, women, and children for a year. And they blew up a market. They were going after the civilians because some of them were helping the soldiers, and Iran was insurgent across the border. There were so many casualties, and he had to decide who was going and who wasn't. Either they were not that injured or they weren't going to make it. And he literally, if this triggers you, I'm going to get a little bit graphic. Put mute on, and I'll wave when I'm done. He had to shove gauze in bullet holes and try to keep these people alive. And I just found out, my son told me, because he never told me all the details. He's never really talked about it. All he told me is he didn't, back then we got to talk over the internet. He didn't call me for 3 weeks. He said it was so bad he had to go into the shower fully in gear and clothes to wash off all the blood. And so he tried group therapy, and he said they made him feel like a punk because his problem wasn't with, he wasn't in danger that year. He was the first year. But that wasn't the point. I'm going to look into more of that, AA. I am. Well, he's asleep right now. He sleeps during the day. Yeah, I know. Well, we've got to get him back into therapy again. He hasn't really done that much. He really needs to. They tried some meds with him and stuff. Anyway, oh, sorry. I'm done. Anybody muted? I'm getting off subject. So I guess part of that I was getting at is, what we're doing Sunday is, I've been involved with a lot of mental illness in my family, myself. I think everybody has. Did I? Yeah, I went through that. Physical therapy did not help. And so what really started the fibro was a workplace injury, the shoulder. I actually already went over it, but she was what I read out. I didn't know her. She was 8 years old when I moved out. And I'll be honest with you, she had these tendencies as a young child, because she would get me in trouble and she would lie, just make shit up. And by high school, it was just my mom and me and her. And she was she was a baby. Oh God, mom would try to make me babysit her, and she would lose it. She wouldn't listen to anything I had to say at 2 and 3 and 4 years old. And one time, I think she was still in diapers. She was young. I'm sitting on the couch, and you can see we were in a townhouse apartment. My mom was at the kitchen table on the phone. She could see me. And then the living room was this way. There was the hallway back to the dining room and kitchen. My sister is across the room and yells, "Kim, quit hitting me." My mom can see me, and she yells at me to stop hitting my sister. And that was what my life was like. That's why when I got home from basic training, so I enlisted on my 17th birthday, my junior year, because when you're in reserves, you can go to basic training between your junior and senior year, come back, do your weekend drills your senior year, but because they have you in the slot for the job you're going into, but you haven't got the training yet. Don't know why they did it this way. So then when you graduate, you go to your AIT, which could be anywhere from, mine was 13 weeks to 6 months or however long it is. And so when I got back from basic, I was grown. I grew up. And when I got home, my mom had taken all my money that I had saved. Had she asked me for it, I would have gave it to her. But I spent my last check of basic training on school clothes in Georgia before I got on the bus. And just because I had time to kill and I went shopping. I wouldn't have done that if I'd have known that money was gone. That money was for my car, to get my car on the registered and insurance so I could have my car that my great grandmother had given me. It was a one owner car. And it was gone. So Tom picked me up at the bus station. And when I checked my balance and it was gone, my mom's name was on the account too, because she was depositing my weekend. I had money coming in. Anyway, so I went to my grandmother's house and moved in with her my senior year and never went back home. I was done. And I didn't do all the senior stuff that people did. I was working to pay for my car. And I was in ROTC and I did my drill teams and everything. But, my mom ruined everything. I never wanted her involved in anything. And when she was, she ruined it. Oh, yes. 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 But, yeah, if you have a chance, AA, the beginning is actually quite informative. At least for me, it was. Seeing the pattern of manipulation and lying and controlling a group of people by getting people to fight with each other. That's what this person did in my group. And when we were done with them and had been fed up, and they knew it. They realized they weren't going to get any more. She realized they weren't going to get any more out of us. And within 24 hours, she was gone, out of state, left the state. She went back home. So she had already used up her parents, but she had nowhere else to go. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm strong because of my grandmother. She was a normal human being. Had I not had her, I'd be a basket case now. I'd be probably like my sister. I don't know. But she was my rock. And she was my dad's mom. And even though my dad, they got divorced when I was like 2.5. The one good thing she did is let me go spend any weekend I wanted with my grandmother. And it was great. That's why I was such a good grandma to my grandkids. And when they moved away almost 3 years now, I was devastated. Because my daughter was a single mom all that time. They're 12 and 13 now. They were with me every day. Even if I couldn't do much with them, sometimes we just sat on the bed and played Uno. When they were young, I made myself move around because they were young and I had to take care of them. So I found the energy to help deal with them. I don't know how I did it. Oh, Wi-Fi. Yeah. Okay, bye, MSD. I missed it. So I just threw this together a few days ago because, like I said, I can't get out. I can't go out. So I wanted to have some things to talk about. And I was like, I thought this might be relevant. I touched on it a few times. Yeah. And now that I'm hearing more stuff, plus the biggest reason that was the only person that I unsubbed from for a long time. It wasn't until recently that I unsubbed from a few other people. Some peripheral channels that like we subbed to because they were supporting SPTV, but they're really not anymore. I just went through my sub list and I didn't unsubscribe from a lot. Like 3 or 4 maybe. But I put it out there because I don't like to lie. And I'd said in my video, I have not unsubbed from anybody. I'm still trying to support everybody. If they're still doing the work, regardless of whether I watch them or not, they can keep my sub. But when I saw the channel Streamer Wars after all of the tension last year, I was like, who does that? Nobody with good intentions does that. And after that, that's all I needed to know. Regardless of who's supporting him, regardless of who's friends with him, I can't control what people do. And I'm not going to, go off on somebody just because they're in chat of a channel that I don't follow or want to follow. That's not me. I'm not hateful like that. And I don't want anybody else to be hateful like that. Just because we're talking about it, everybody has to make their own decision. Because I've been going around and looking at here and there, and I see who's in the chats, and I've just been curious my own self to see what everybody's up to. And I lurk a little bit for a little while and I leave. And I see people in there that surprises me. But as long as everybody's cordial in the other chats and they're not, attacking other people or trying to support that person in another person's chat, I'm cool with it. I don't care. Support whoever you want to support. I just feel that there's one person that we shouldn't, because he's really trying to bring, he said he was going to bullhorn anyone that came to Blue to protest. He scared all the protesters away, so he would be the only one there. And that's the only reason. There's no moral high ground for him. There's no positive going on there. It's a bunch of screaming and yelling at these poor Scientologists and getting arrested all the time. If his people want to watch that, fine. But leave the other protesters alone. So, I found out he attacked people that I had no idea. And I'm like, Tori? Really? Dude, really? And X, he's not ever been in Scientology. He doesn't have the right to be attacking ex-members. I'm sorry, I just don't feel that. Oh, did she? Oh, neat. I'll go check it out. I was watching. Oh, you had me on. I saw. What Adam say? Wagon of Justice. That was funny. That's cool. I'll go check it out. Oh, she's in Vegas. Okay. Let me know if she goes on while we're still here. Oh, later today? Okay. Yeah, she's earlier than us, so. Oh, thank you, AA. I appreciate that. We're going to get that interview here someday. I'm a very bad procrastinator, and I really do forget things for long periods of time. You'd be surprised that things go out of my head for weeks and months sometimes. I've told people I thought I had done something, and I never actually did it. That's why I was surprised. Scooter Mom had to tell me I had forgotten I put Dianetics on my community page, and I needed to find it. And I forgot I even did that. It's horrible trying to run this channel and with this memory. Yeah. And yeah, I've heard things about people I was very surprised about lately. I'm not going to act on it just because there's just so much stuff. And that's not what I want to do here. I did it Wednesday night, and I don't mind talking about it in a constructive. Well, I don't know if I'm being constructive. I'm trying not to be hateful, but because I don't feel hate, and I don't even know how angry I am, but I'm more frustrated and disappointed than some. I'm sure if I were there and I was getting it to me personally, I would feel very different. So I understand if people feel different. Yeah, and I almost flew out. So I literally pulled over and called into his channel because he was trying to get people to come help because he wasn't there. And he was talking about safety. I didn't know the details because like I said, I couldn't watch every hour. I literally was looking up plane tickets. If I could have got the $200 round trip that I got when I visited my daughter, I would have been out there to help with the encampment. Luckily it was $800 and I couldn't do it. Because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. I still have never seen some of the people that they talk about. I've never seen them. I hope so. And like I said, so there's more than one Walmart in Killeen. We have so many Walmarts around here, you guys. It's ridiculous because of the base. I'll tell you about that later. You can just walk in, and every time I plan to go out and just walk in and get my eye exam, something happens. I'm like, oh. I was pretty angry Wednesday night. I was feeling a little tipsy there towards the end too. You said that. I hope so. Yeah, and that's what's so hard about being out here like this. I do. I was always that person. Even in school, I was the one that had the extra pencil or the extra paper for people. That's just the way I am. And I want to go out and help. I wish I could, but I'm stuck here and all I can do is do what I can do. So I don't want to start anything with anybody. I want to see the movement get back to what it was doing. And I don't think any movement like this should be scaring protesters away or any support. That's the part that upsets me. And then we've had people that just watch that have left. And there is, last I heard, there may be less now, but at one time there was 100 protest channels. So there's something for everybody in there. Nobody has to fight for control. Nobody has to fight for viewers. Nobody has to fight with other protesters or creators. There's enough to go around. Thanks, Susan. That's my biggest goal. Because that dude bought that building 55 years ago. It was not an ideal org building. Because they were in it before, and then they left to remodel it. And because it was across from a college. And then the month later, March, they opened Chicago right next to a college. So I'm still going to keep doing it, because as long as people stop and talk to me, I'm going to keep doing it until we get somebody's eyeball with some power. That's something else that I hope that Saturday night, I'm going to be talking more about my channel. I'm not going to do it here. About what I see for the future. And we've touched on it before, other things I could be doing. What I hope is University of Texas is a big, big university. Some senator's kid or lawmaker's kid or judge or journalist, something is going to see me at that school. That's something else I want to do more, is be more roaming, maybe on campus. But I was told, I need to find out the ins and outs. I was told you can't have us walk around with a sign. But the body routers go out and hand out pamphlets. So I'm just going to come up with a business card or something. Definitely, Doug, definitely. Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. Thank you, Victor. I tell them there's a foundation that'll help you get out and get an apartment and all that. There's two. But that's good to know, maybe. Because, I know a lot of I'm hot now. When the sun hits the house, even though it's below freezing, it still gets warm in here. Whew, it's hot. I need more water. But yeah, that's another reason why, hey, Mr. Fraud, a lot of us try to stay civil, because I'm hoping they'll see that not everybody out here is evil like they tell them. And I try to, when they are within earshot, when I say I yell, I'm not yelling aggressively just to be loud. I'm just being loud. My drill sergeant voice. Things that they can easily look up, like the Delphi Academy lawsuit. When you Google that, it is literally the first thing on Google that comes up. All right, bye, Scooter Mom. I should be wrapping up here too. How long have I been on here? Almost 2 hours. I hadn't planned. I had meant this to be a quick thing, but you know me. I can't get out this week, so I'm talkative. Oh, they probably do. But I know that I know with my daughter, she gets a little bit of assistance, like food stamps, but she's always worked, so she's never really got rent assistance. But I see how complicated and it is to do. So right away, it's hard to get help. That's why the foundations are so important. And so when I get my new signs here eventually, it's driving me crazy. It's been over almost a year that we've supposed to have this sign done. I'm going to have both foundations listed. And I just do the website. I couldn't remember the phone number for my life anyway. So it's easy to find stuff on the internet. And they can go to a library and get on the internet if they get out. Oh, that's awesome. The panel's Sunday. Is this Friday or Saturday? I don't know. What day is today? Am I on the wrong day? Being iced in like this, I'm totally confused. What is today? Bye, Doug. Well, Saturday night at 10 p.m. is my anniversary. I need to put it out here. I don't have it listed. Is my anniversary stream. Okay. And then Sunday at 4 Central is the fibro chronic pain panel. So, and I need to email everybody and make sure everybody's that we talk to. Beer is better. Yeah, I found out recently that alcohol is bad for fibromyalgia, but I don't, it's not like I drink every day or very much sometimes. I went 16 years and didn't have a drink just because I was involved in church and stuff. Just, it was suggested at church to not smoke or drink, so we didn't. I tried using alcohol way back to sleep, and I found out exactly what they say. It doesn't help. You end up waking up after a short time, and didn't really help. Nothing really helps my sleep, except exhaustion. I'm going to go, y'all. Everybody's starting to head out. I appreciate y'all stopping by. I hope this is useful. I hope some people watch it on the replay so they can see the pattern for themselves. And just, people want to say that these people, we don't understand why people do these things. And so all I was trying to do is maybe give some understanding. You guys know I'm a researcher. I want to know the why, what, when, and how. And so when I come up to a problem or an issue or just something that's interesting, I have to do research. I want to know why. I want to know why these people act like this. I want to know why my sister acted that way and that friend acted that way. And that's all this is I just want to know why. And it pretty much just solidifies that there's nothing we can say or do to make those people stop. They're not going to stop. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Mr. Fraud. Yes, Eric Rader. Let's go over there. Either one. I'll go over there too. I don't know how to put. Hold on. Let me go get the link. I've never done this before, so bear with me. All right. Let's see. Eric Rader. He's live. Okay, let's get the link. Copy link. Let's see if this works. Scooter Mom's always doing it for me. I hope this works. Here's the link to Eric. Go tell him Room Raid. I'm going to go over there too for a little while. That's awesome. I think has he been protesting? Because whenever I click in, he's at the beach and stuff. Because he said Wednesday that he had stopped protesting out there. But I saw some of them. They weren't protesting at Big Blue. They were doing it on a bridge and stuff. I mean, there's other places you can get the word out. Oh, it worked. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Fraud. All right. I'm going over there too. Y'all have a great weekend if I don't see you anymore. But don't forget my anniversary stream tomorrow night. I'm going to go set it up right now so people know. I should have done it already. I forgot. I got to come up with a picture for it. I'm not sure. I guess my normal symbol would be good enough. I'll find an anniversary picture. Yeah, I'll go find a 1-year anniversary picture. All right, y'all. Bye, y'all.